Hello, my friends. I welcome you to another episode of Adhitya Talks. And today we have Mr. James joining us from England, and he's going to share his vast experience in the field of leadership consultancy and his vast experience as a person. He is going to share a lot of knowledge with us. Welcome to the show, sir. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you very much for taking the time to ask me to be on today. Thank you.
It's my honor. It's my pleasure. I will learn a lot today from you, and I hope my viewers you will also learn a lot. First of all, for the benefit of our viewers, can you shed some light on your background and how you reached this point in your life?
Sure. Well, sometimes we don't always plan things, and the initial part of my life wasn't really planned. It was one of those things as a kid, probably about your age, but I certainly wasn't up to speed with the technology and that you're used to and this sort of stuff. We didn't have mobile phones back when I was your age. And all I wanted to do was go out and play sports and do that sort of thing. And eventually, when I went out into the big wide world, I got involved in shipping. I spent many years working in the shipping organization and working with companies, oil companies around the world that would transport oil on these big oil tankers you see around the world. And so I spent many years doing that. It was fantastic because obviously we got to deal with people from all over the world, from your country, from India. There was people from Singapore, Japan, Australia, you name it, almost every country that has water. We had people that had ships and were dealing in oil, a commodity, which at that time was far more in use than people are thinking about getting rid of it than they are now, if you see what I mean. So it was great because I met so many different people from different cultures and learned an awful lot about how other people got involved in business, how they did things. And of course, it was a big learning curve for me. And eventually, when I got out of that line of work, I realized that there were certain things that were missing, that not just from outside in other companies, but I was missing. Because we have to take time and reflect on the things that we're missing in our own lives that we're not capable of doing because we don't know, and i.e. how to do things. So we have to learn them. And as I was going through my career, I realized that there were certain things that I didn't know, and I tried to learn about them. And the big one, or the big two really, are interlinked, which is why I deal with it now, which is leadership and performance mindset, is how we think about things. And so when I got out of that line of work, I wanted to go and discover from those people that were, to me, much further up the ladder of success, not just for material things, but more for their families, how they held themselves, how they got up the ladder of success inside of businesses, companies, and how they looked after people. And that's what led me to go down to study leadership, really what it means, and how we can use our minds to think at a higher level to get teams to perform better and more cohesively and be more engaged. And the thing is, you can't have leadership without performance mindset, and you can't have a performance mindset without being a leader. Because if you're looking after people, you're trying to get a team of people to, whether it's a football team, whether it's a sports team, whether it's a business team of people to work together, you have to have the right mindset, and you also have to have the leadership skills. And so that's what really I realized was missing, but I also saw was missing in other companies and stuff. And that's why I thought it was so important for people to learn. And it still is very much so today.
Yes, and I totally agree with you. Leadership is one of the most important skills for people around the world, and is recommended by Forbes as one of the future skills that youth is required to learn in order to lead in order to lead the world into the new generation. So this is a great field of work you're doing, and it's really interesting. Also, can you tell us about your story on how you became a performance and a leadership consultant. Can you share some key notable experiences from your career?
Yeah, as I say, but when I was in my corporate career, that we were under a lot of pressure to produce results. The expectation, inside a company, they always want to hit certain levels. They've got to make sure the shareholders are happy. We all have to make sure that we get to be successful, because if you're not successful, then you don't have a company, you don't get paid, and then you're in trouble. And so, as I said, what it was to me, it was making sure that I was meeting my own expectations, but also other people's expectations. And the realization is that I would get to this level and I would see some people get to this level. And so I would get to that level, but then I would see other people were here. And I couldn't quite work out why that was. And the reality was that we're all taught and we're told certain things when we're growing up, that, oh, you have to have, he's born with that talent, he is naturally gifted at those things. Well, that's true to a certain extent. But what I realized is that talent is only a small percentage of success. There are the other things, as I was explaining a second ago, which is leadership and our mindset. We can do almost anything we want if we put our minds to it, if we have the right skill set. And you can have the most talented footballer, cricketer, martial artist, businessman on the planet, but it doesn't mean they're necessarily going to be successful in all the right ways. Just because you make a lot of money, that doesn't mean you're really a successful person, because are you giving back to your community? Are you giving back to your family? Are you spending enough time with them? And all these other things that I realized were important, but were missing. And so it was this realization. I thought, well, we can always improve our talent by working on it. You see cricketers from your part of the world that are fantastic at what they do, but they can have a certain amount of talent that they were born with when they were given a cricket bat or a cricket ball. But the more they work at it, the better they become. So talent can be developed, a skill, just the same as leadership and mindset is, but you have to work at these things. And so that's through my own realization, is that why I discovered other people were becoming more successful, and not just successful, but they were getting the results and achieving and aspiring that they were aspiring to. And so when I got out, that's what I had to follow and find out the reasons why, because it's like anything. If you look inside a car, if you don't know how the engine works, well, you can't do anything with it. But if you then can go and discover how the engine works, you can do some work on it. And so the important thing is we've got to be able to work on ourselves and improve ourselves. And that's what the biggest discovery for me was.
Yes, absolutely. I also believe talent is only a small percentage of achieving something. It's more about the hard work you put in. It's more about how you go about it, and the mindset you have. And I totally agree with you on this. And I don't think that talent is a deciding factor on who is better at something. It's all about the experience, the hard work you have put in all over the years. So thank you for sharing that. And also, over the decade of work you have put in this field, what are the major problems that people face in life and work?
Well, there's going to be numerous ones, but from my experience, having worked in different organizations, and I've worked with some of the most successful companies and people around the world, as I say, the big oil companies and shipping companies around the world. A big challenge is expectation, is other people's expectations. You'll have a company that will set certain expectations for you to achieve what they want. And that puts an awful lot of pressure on people. That are those expectations realistic for that person? for example, if you employ somebody but you're not willing to pay them the right amount of money for the job that they're doing, but you expect them to make, this much money, but you only want to pay them this much, well, then there's a big gap there somewhere along the line. And are you willing to invest in those people so that they can become more skilled at what they're trying to do for the company? And this causes problems because people feel ill-equipped. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel confident. And when you have that problem, then that's putting the pressure on the people, because our natural way of life is to be as successful as we can. And I have to choose the word successful, but we aspire to achieve, not for the sake of greed and everything else. Some people do that, which isn't good. What I'm talking about is that if you take a group of children and you put them in a class, and they will find ways to do things, to build things naturally, if you give them toys and bricks and these sorts of things from a young age, that is just a natural thing that we do as humans. And so the more that we learn, the more that we build, the more we'll want to learn, and our expectations become greater and greater. And so what you have is that disparity between what we want and what certain companies will pay us, allow us to achieve, but also we have our own limitations that we put on ourselves, that we are far more gifted, and we have at our disposal through our minds the ability to achieve far greater things than we give ourselves credit for. And so we have these negative things, Adhitya, called beliefs. Oh, I can't do that. I don't believe I can do that. I'm not as good enough as him, and he is or she is much better than me. I can't do it. And so other people start putting their limitations on you, telling you that you can't, you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're ugly, and all these horrible things that people say and do to each other that we then believe is true. Yes. And that's what stops us, rather than us thinking, well, that's not the case. That's not true. There are so many other people that have achieved. If they can, why can't I? And so that causes more stress and more anxiety in people across the world, which doesn't help anybody. And if we can learn to get over those things, which is what mindset is all about, is how we can develop, a very strong mental ability to resilience, to come back when there's challenges, because there's always going to be problems, there's always going to be challenges, but how we can believe in ourselves and build networks of people that, help each other and lift each other up, rather than
a competitive scenario.
Yeah, there's always going to be competition is good to an extent, but I'm talking about the point of having a team of people or group or network of people that believe in building things, rather than having this competitive edges that we have to be better than him to survive, which is not necessarily true. When we help other people become more successful and believe in themselves, then I have a saying that, belief in ourselves is fantastic, but when we believe in somebody else, that's when the magic really happens. You see people light up when somebody else believes in them.
Yes. So basically competition, which is based on bringing down a person and being better than them, is not actually a good competition if you base it on emotion and your personal beliefs. But if there is a competition to motivate yourself and the peer you're competing with, I think that is a healthy competition. And of course we can't remove these kind of scenarios from the world, but what we can do actually is build a mindset that will shield us from all these bad things which can influence our life in many different ways. So I think that was a great point you said.
Absolutely, yeah. Because competition is good, because obviously it gives us that edge, but it's a competitive edge to be used for us to improve ourselves, not from a point of being egotistical, saying, oh, look at me, I'm better than you. That's not really helpful. competition is good because you're going to have competition in sports. The whole idea of playing cricket or playing hockey or football or any other sport is because it builds your character. I love golf. I don't know if you know much about golf, but golf is what I call it. It's a great leveler because it's not us just playing against somebody else. It's us playing against the course and against us. So that if we have that competitive edge, we have to be humble in winning as well as in defeat. And I think that's what it teaches us, is to have the right competitive edge as opposed to an egotistical one.
Yes. And bringing your personal beliefs into something will always come into being something bad. You should think logically, and that I think I agree with you on this. And a lot of people across the world face stress and are unable to cope up in life and with work. How can we completely avoid stress in our life and not fall into this endless pit of stress with competition and that drags us down? And can you share your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it's impossible to eliminate all forms of stress. And I say that because we have stress as a means of helping us in the right way. But when we have too much stress, it's not good for us. I mean, a simple example is that if you have a bridge, you make a bridge made out of certain material, metal, and the engineers make it so that it fits across a ravine, water, or whatever, so that we can get from one side to the other safely. But also, it will go under stress, but it's built to resist that stress. However, if you put too much stress on the bridge, eventually it's going to give way. And it's the same with us. The thing is that we have to learn how to deal with stress. We have different coping mechanisms, different ways of thinking. And that's what mindset comes down to, is how we view things in life, which can either make more stress or take away stress. And a certain amount of stress is good because it keeps us on edge. It's a natural form for us, this fight or flight. As we, from your part of the world, where there's tigers running around, is that, if you're in the jungle and you see that, there's tigers, it's going to keep you on edge. A certain amount of stress is going to keep you aware of what may happen. But to be constantly thinking about tigers all the time isn't really going to do you much good, because your body is going to be working on overload all the time. And the body needs to go through phases of, escalated heart rate and these sorts of things, stress, and then we come down. When we play sports, for example, we go through the same emotional situations. Is our heart rate is racing, and the adrenaline's running around. We get excited, when somebody's scoring goals or runs, but we can't do that all the time. And so the flip side is that we have to take some of the learnings from the Eastern world over the years, which has been, to me, fascinating, is how do we calm ourselves down? How do we get into situations where we can alleviate the stress? And it's through some of the great teachings from your country, other Eastern countries,
Yes,
where we can use meditation, yoga, these sorts of things to actually help us think, use our minds, so that our minds aren't running around like we call it a hamster in a wheel,
hamster
running at
wheels.
100.
Yes.
That's the one. You got it. And so we need to take time out so we can actually focus and let our minds and bodies rest, because if we're going all the time full out, it's not really going to be healthy. So we have to find, I wouldn't say, in the West we call it, they like to say it's a work-life balance. I don't believe you can call it that. I believe it's more harmony, how we can have more harmony between our work and our rest and the two lives.
Yes, I agree with you. And meditation is also one of the ways that you can avoid this. Great point. And stress, too much of everything is bad for you. And stress is also one of these factors. Too much of stress will result in bad stuff for you.
Yeah.
Also, how can a proper attitude and a better way of life affect work and motivation? How can we change our life away from work so that it can affect our life in work?
Good question. But the thing is, that's why I was just saying a second ago, is that I don't believe you can have like a work-life balance, because say you run your own company and you're working 15 hours a day, you sleep 3 hours a day, and you don't see your family but for 3 hours. Well, that's not really balanced, is it? Balance is
Yes.
6 of this and 6 of this. And so I believe it's being more in harmony. If you're, again, working, spending so much time working in your business, and you're not seeing your family, you're not doing the things that you want to do just to make money, then you're going to be under stress. You're going to be doing things that take you away from what you really want to do, which is to be around your family and to be a success and have quality time with them. So that's going to cause more problems. So what I believe we have to look at is what makes us happy, what brings us joy, as well as the things that we can do to work, to make money, to do the things that we want to do so we can live the lifestyle we want. And as I say, I believe it's more about having harmony in our life, where we can enjoy the time with the people we want, go and do the things, the hobbies we want, build businesses that we want, and utilize the skills of other people rather than just trying to do everything on our own. And the word you used there was attitude, which is attitude is such an important thing, because you can't always you can see people's attitude, even though it's difficult to describe what it is. For example, I use a lot of analogies for sport. Is if you get somebody who isn't happy about being bowled out in cricket, or who isn't happy with the manager, or isn't happy playing football and is substituted, you'll see the body language. Or if they're losing, the head will go down and they're all like this. That's going to show. That attitude will show, and it will turn up. And your attitude will show when you go to work. How do you turn up to work late all the time? Do you really want to be there? And all these things will show in your attitude about how you show up in the world. So attitude is a very important thing that not everybody really spends much time to think about. And I think it's the biggest factor in our life that can change things is our attitude towards life and other people. What is our attitude towards them? Because I'm sure you've probably heard the saying that, people want, or we should treat other people the way that we want to be treated.
Yes.
And I think that's such an important way to go through, and an attitude to have, which will bring far more
Peace.
healthier relationships and things like that, for us to have a more harmonious life rather than just a successful one. So it is an important thing to have the right attitude.
Yes. You can begin.
Yeah, so as I was saying, just the attitude, I think, is probably the most important thing that we can actually have, which will make our lives a lot easier, more harmonious at dealing with other people.
Yes. So basically, to summarize for our viewers, what you said was try to manage. Do not focus on one aspect of your life too much, because if you focus on work too much, you will get depressed by the fact that you're not spending time with your family. And if you focus, if you spend a lot of time with your family, you will get depressed that you are not making actually progress in your work. So I think we should manage. So you said that we should harmonize the work and our personal lives, just in a way that they can coexist in harmony. And you should have an attitude that brings you harmonious relationships, and so that you can progress in life. So I think that's such a great thought. My viewers, if you are enjoying the interview, just share your comment, thoughts in the comments below as well, and let's continue with the interview. So as we said, attitude and beliefs are very hard to change. And sometimes this change is important to move forward in life. As you said, how can we change our attitude for the better? And how should we go about it? What is your advice on this?
I think your first statement was correct, is that attitudes and behaviors are difficult to change because the two are coming from the same thing, which are habits. We
Yes.
we focus in our lives on things, and we don't realize that the majority of our life is being run by habits. We do the same things all the time. We eat the same things for dinner on a certain day. We go to work at the same time. We catch the same time train or whatever. We do all of these things, and they become habits because it's easy for our minds to work on habits, so that we
Yes.
don't have to think about it. So they are controlled by our subconscious mind. And if anybody's tried to do something new, it becomes apparent that how much of a habit it is by how difficult it is to change. Certain habits will be easier to change than other habits. It depends upon how long you've been doing it. If you've been doing something only for, say, a few months, it's going to be easier to change. If you've been doing something for 10, 15, 20 years, which probably some of your audience aren't quite that old, but the point being is the longer you do something, the more it is ingrained into us as a natural thing, a habit we don't have to think about. And it becomes more difficult to change. We have to be more conscious, and we have to be more disciplined and decide, if that's really what I want, then I have to make sure that I keep doing it consciously until it becomes a new habit. And that can take different amounts of time. They've done different studies, and it can take up to 66 days of repeating the same thing, which is why it becomes difficult, because some people think, oh, this is difficult, I don't want to do that. Well, then that's the key, is how much do you want? The reason why you're changing to this new habit will determine how committed and disciplined you are, and if it will happen.
Yes. So basically, just treat your attitude as a habit, and go about changing it as a habit. Change your habit. Just
Yeah.
repeatedly practice it for 66 days, as you said, and life will change for you.
Well, yeah, on the basis is that you don't try and do too many things at once. You know,
Yes.
if you try and do too many things or change too many habits at the same time, your mind will get confused. What I'm thinking about is, if you, what you just mentioned there is your attitude, is, I used the expression a moment ago about being on a sports field, is if you realize is that you don't have a very good attitude, if you've been substituted, or you don't have a very good attitude about, say, going to work or going to school or study, that you have to think, well, how do I change that? Well, if I know I need to get a certain exam grade, then I know I need to be disciplined in my study. Okay, well, then I'm going to set a time each day at 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever time it is where you are and when you finish school, as an example, and say, right, okay, now I know that's what I want. This is the goal I'm going to be getting out of it. And this is what I need to do beforehand. So I need to study each day as a discipline, and then it becomes a habit. And we can do other things to help us do that, is to set alarms, reminders, put notes somewhere, so that the more that we're telling our minds and our brains about something, it then starts reminding us, oh, I must go and do that. Oh, it's Tuesday, 6 o'clock. I know I must study for French or German or whatever else, or financial studies or technology. So that's what I would suggest doing.
Yes. Um, Thank you for your advice on this, and my viewers follow this. And I think a lot of problems in your life will be solved, because habits and attitude are the source of many problems that we face in our life, and mindset also. Just try to change these, and you will face a better life and a better day in the future. But moving on, sir, what is your advice for the youth to be successful in life?
Well, everybody has a different idea on what success looks like. One person will see a success as having a house, a family, a loving family, and a piece of land here. Somebody else will say, well, no, my idea of success is having a factory and I employ 20 people. Somebody else will say I have success when I have 3 factories, and somebody else will say, no, I want 50 factories. Everybody has their different ideas, but what I've found is that to be really successful, we have to be happy and contented in life, that we're actually living a life that we enjoy and that we are adding value to other people. If you make so much money in the world but you're unhappy and you aren't spending time with your family and you're miserable and you employ people and you don't pay them well, but you're taking all the money, that's not success. Success is about helping other people get what they want. And when you do that and you can actually enjoy the quality of your life and have less stress in it, then that's, to me, a lot more successful, having more people around you that you love and care about.
Exactly. I think this is really interesting, and also, sir, you have so much wisdom and so many great thoughts that you have shared with us. I Can you also share some of your favorite books which you recommend for the children and the viewers that are watching this interview right now?
Yeah, there's different books which I'm thinking about the age gaps and things. That's the thing, is that some of the books that I've read, I don't want to put people start reading stuff that they may think, well, that's not really enjoyable. You have to think about what people are looking to get out of it. I think one of the biggest challenges we have in this day and age is about communication. People are we're communicating more than ever,
But
but
that is distancing us apart as well, because of the
exactly, we have
internet and
social
all.
media. Yeah, we have social media. There's every month there's a new social media channel coming out, and there are more and more people just trying to spend more time on social media. But I think this book, anybody can read, and it's by a mentor of mine, a man by the name of John Maxwell, and it's called "Everyone's Communicating, but Few Are Connecting."
Yes.
And it just tells the story and teaches people what real connecting is, about the power of how to communicate more effectively with people. And I think it doesn't matter what age you are, that's such an important thing, is that we need to understand the real power of effective communication, whether you're in a family, whether you're at school, whether you're a teacher or a company, especially a company. The idea of being able to communicate as a person, as a leader, is never really. In fact, it's so underestimated, the power of communication. I think that's probably the best book that I could recommend for across the board, because some of the others are probably a little bit too deep.
Yes, sir. Also, I also like. It would be great if you could recommend some books about mindset and how we can change our mindset to become successful, and some books with tips on how to exactly do and go about that process.
Well, there are there any books about doing that I've actually got? I don't know if the book is in print still. I have a copy, but it's many years old. There's a book, I can't remember the name of the guy who wrote it, but it's called The Power of Thinking Big.
Yes, I think I have that book in my library.
Right.
It's a great book.
Yeah, I think that's just because it breaks everything down and simplifies things, which I think most of your audience will probably appreciate to as a starter to help thinking, because there are so many different books, and I think that's probably the best one to start with, the most talked about one, which is by Carol Dweck, but it's probably a little bit advanced for some of your listeners or your viewers. But that's one that a lot of people talk about, is on mindset. But there are many others out there. But let's say the main one I would try and start with is Keep Thinking Big, or Start Thinking Big. I can't remember the name of it now.
Yes,
The
and
Power of Thinking
also,
Big.
yeah, the power of thinking big. And also, for my viewers, one book I would recommend for you guys to change your habits and changing your attitude is Atomic Habits by James Clear. Just it's not too advanced, but I think it has some key habit like techniques and tips for becoming and changing, becoming the ideal person you want to be. So, one more book for you guys. And
Yeah, I haven't read it. I've heard of it, but there is a similar one by another guy who was a Harvard professor, and I think that's called Tiny Habits, which I don't know who wrote the book first, whether the Stanford professor did or James Clear did, but this guy's been doing it for a number of years, so maybe James has taken a similar idea and changed it. I don't know, but that's another one, which is Tiny
yes,
Habits.
yes. It's also, I also wanted to ask you. You said one of your role models and one of your mentors was James Clear. Sorry, John
John
C.
Maxwell.
Maxwell. Yes, I have some of his books as well. He's a very inspirational person. Do you have some other role models which our viewers can also learn from to be successful in life?
Yeah, though they're not necessarily in the same field, is Denzel Washington, the actor.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
uh, I think if you listen to him and his philosophies on life, that I think they have a great effect on young people. And I know I've heard him speak to young students who are finishing at college on different occasions, and he just has a great philosophy, a great outlook on life, on how we can be better as people, how we can treat other people, and just basically become the best version of ourselves. And if we all did that more, there would be far less problems in the world. There would be far less conflict, and there would be far more engagement and less competitive edge we talked about. And I think if people listen to Denzel, it would be great. I'd like to hear more of it, to be honest with you, but I know he's busy doing all his films and stuff. But he's one guy I do really appreciate and follow.
Absolutely. Denzel Washington is an actor who has inspired many across the world, and he continues to do so. He's a phenomenal actor. And sir, um, please advise two people whom you would like to see and learn from on the show. Some people that you would recommend to come on here and share their experiences with our community.
Well, if you could get Denzel Washington on the show, that would be something, because I'm not sure if you can, but I don't have his personal number or his details to send. But Denzel is certainly one. And you've caught me on the hop. I'm not usually lost for words, but I'm just trying to think if there's somebody else out there. Is there somebody else I can think of? I honestly, I've got a complete blank. Besides Denzel Washington,
Of course, you can think about this later and just send me a person whom you know. Of course, Denzel Washington is one, but some people that you know that you would recommend to come on the show, because
I'll
that adds
I'll have
the
a, I'll
yes.
certainly have a think, and I will let you know.
Absolutely, sir. No problem. I lastly, sir, I hope you enjoyed this interview. I certainly did, and please advise what unique thing you have liked about my channel, Adhitya Talks, and any suggestions which should be incorporated to improve the experience of our viewers.
No, I think it's great, and what you're doing, just keep doing what you're doing. And I appreciate you inviting me to be on here. There, I read something the other day on LinkedIn that somebody said sometimes there is too much positivity being put out, and I thought about that. That's just crazy, to be honest with you, that we can't have enough positivity. And that's real positivity. I'm not talking about the fake and the false stuff that people put out. I'm talking about things that people come and say and mean from the heart to encourage other people. Why? Because the habits we talked about, there are so many negative habits that we have and negativity around the world, that the more that we have the positivity is, the more it's going to actually help inspire other people. That, we never know when we're going to have a bad day or something's not going to work out. So what you're doing, I think, is fantastic. And the more that we do it, the better the world is in that respect. What do I like about it? That I think you're doing it in such a way that is helping other youngsters. And I don't know if anybody else is doing that. There might be others that are helping the youngsters, but obviously I can't know and can't see what everybody's doing on the planet. But what you are doing, I think, is fantastic. So again, thank you for inviting me, and I hope you get many more viewers and listeners.
Thank you. It has been an honor to interview you, and I learned a lot today. And it would be really exciting if I could interview you once more in the future. And if you allow me to, I will certainly. And sir, thank you for coming. And my viewers, if you have any questions or if you want to follow sir, I'll just link his LinkedIn in the description below. Just go and follow him, and see you later. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me again. I appreciate it.